Hello and welcome back to the Charles Squared podcast. My name is Charlie Mason.
And my name is Charles Iverson. Welcome back, guys.
All right, we have seen the first 3 episodes of the new Marvel TV series, She-Hulk. We've got some thoughts, some predictions, and a whole lot of questions to answer. So, Charles, you want to get us started?
Yeah, so I'd just like to start by saying this show is nothing like anything else we've ever seen in the MCU. I mean, it's basically like a sitcom, and WandaVision kind of was too, but it was like a trippy sitcom. This is like a sitcom, like an actual sitcom, but like a modern one. So just the tone and the vibe of this show are completely different. In the first episode, it just jumps right in. It wastes no time with introductions. We get her origin story right away. But one thing that I thought was really weird was how she gets her powers. There's a car crash, but the car crash is caused by a random spaceship that just comes out of nowhere.
Naturally. Yeah, it's the MCU. If there wasn't a spaceship, it wouldn't be a TV show, right?
I guess. It's just so crazy that, like, an occurrence like that can just be, like, normal. And Hulk instantly knows that it's a Sicarian spaceship.
Right.
And that's naturally just how she gets her powers in the show.
I do have to say about her getting her powers, I know that they had to give her some sort of, origin story in terms of some sort of gamma radiation or an accident that caused this. It was a little forced, I will admit. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit forced. But I do like how they had the... I don't even know what to call it.
Oh,
But
the
cuff thing
inhibitor on Bruce's arm?
the inhibitor. I do like how that breaking and causing him to bleed in and their blood mixed. I do like how that's a creative way to expose her to the type to being a Hulk. I think it was a great segue. I think the first episode, like you said, getting straight to the origin story, that's never happened in the MCU before.
Yeah,
At least not in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, for Moon Knight, we basically take a whole episode to learn about Moon Knight's origin. Actually, we don't even fully know his origins until the fifth episode. But we don't even see the suit until the end of the first episode. This is very unprecedented for MCU shows.
If there was any other show that kind of got into the origin story of or not the origin story, but the beginning of the show kind of explaining what happened, it would be Loki, I guess. And that's a great comparison because Loki's an amazing show. So if She-Hulk has any competition with Loki, it's doing its job right. But I love and appreciate how forward the directors and the writing has been. That's what really jumped out, and that's why this is, I think, going to be one of the best shows the MCU has to offer, just because, like you said, that sitcom, it's just so personable and easy to follow, and it's got humor, but it doesn't try too hard with the humor. It's the perfect mixture of MCU and modern-day television. I think it does a great job.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But, okay, going back to Jen's origin story, with the blood mixing. So, her powers don't quite work the same way that Bruce's did originally when he first became the Hulk. And they sort of explain that in the show. They sort of mention how, she is just able to control her anger better than Bruce was. But personally, I don't think that's the only reason why. I think because Bruce's blood mixed with Jen's while he was in, the Smart Hulk form, that's the combination between Bruce and Hulk, I think that's the real reason, or at least part of the reason why she's able to control her powers better than Bruce was, because she didn't get the raw Hulk blood. She got a mix between the Bruce and the Hulk blood.
I was just going to say that same thing. Bruce got Hulk blood mixed into his blood. Jen got a mixture of Hulk and human blood mixed into human blood. So it's kind of like cutting in half the amount of Hulk that she has in her. She doesn't transform nearly as large as Bruce did when he was originally the Hulk. Even the
Yes.
Smart Hulk, she's still like a lot shorter. It's just a different type of Hulk that we're seeing. Um, and I don't know. I just think that the inhibitor also probably played a role in that. The amount of
Yes,
blood
because
or the type of blood that came out of it.
yeah, I think like
Yeah.
as Bruce's blood went into Jen, Bruce was still in the process of transforming out of his human form too. So that
Mm.
could have played somewhat of a role in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was definitely a creative way to introduce how Jen is able to vary between. And I guess it kind of makes sense. Attorney at law, there's no way that she would be able to function as a lawyer while being, like, simultaneously being a Hulk.
Right.
But I mean, it makes sense, is what I'm saying. It makes sense that she's able to do that. So, no loophole there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw some people complaining about that online, so that yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. It does make sense.
Yeah,
Um
there's definitely a way that Marvel wrote it, and it works. It works perfectly. So
yes. However, something that I think doesn't make as much sense, not that it's necessarily a bad thing, is She-Hulk's ability to break the fourth wall. And it isn't like we haven't seen this in the MCU before, because, I think we mentioned this a few podcasts ago, but like the first two Thor movies open with Odin narrating to the audience. We see it a little bit in WandaVision, breaking the fourth wall. But nothing like this, that like you just interrupt a scene that takes place in actual reality, like to talk directly to the audience. Like she in the most recent episode, she even lets go of the steering wheel to turn to the camera. I don't know, maybe she has a Tesla, but whatever.
it made sense in the first episode. She broke the fourth wall for the first time while she was walking away, and Nikki, her paralegal, was walking in front of her, and she kind of looked back to the camera while she was walking forward, so Nikki was out of earshot, which kind of made sense. She's talking back to the camera. But I will agree, there are definitely some weird times that this fourth wall is broken, like in the middle of conversations, which is fine. Middle of conversation, fourth wall break is normal. It happens in sitcoms all the time. Just looking at the camera, but she was balancing two different
Yeah,
conversations.
the action doesn't stop when she breaks the fourth wall. That's the interesting thing.
Right, and I don't know if it's Marvel trying to be different in a way. It's working for the most part, but there are times where it's just not. It's just not you just shouldn't be able to break the fourth wall in like a situation that she's in, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's possible they address it at some point. I don't necessarily think they will,
yeah,
because I think it's just a storytelling device, and we're probably not supposed to think of it any deeper than that. But I do think it is a little odd where they choose to break the fourth wall.
yeah, it definitely was a little weird. I don't think she broke the fourth wall in this scene, but I think it's important to talk about Titania. Did she break the fourth wall in that scene? Do you remember?
I don't
I
think
think
so.
she did.
Does
I
she?
think she looked at the camera at the end. She
Oh
just went.
yeah, okay. You're right.
She could have looked at the camera. I don't remember.
It was
but,
like it was like a more subtle one if she did.
yeah.
But okay, yeah. Who is Titania though? Like it.
We hear that she's like a pop star.
They say she's a super influencer, but it it just seems like a super random character to introduce. And like on that point, I gotta ask the question, like, are there more superhumans now? Like, it seems like there are a lot more than there were, like, at the very beginning of the MCU, or like even like going back to even like back in phase 3. Like, it seems like the amount of superhumans
Right.
has multiplied exponentially.
And I don't think Marvel really gave us like a sufficient answer as to how that happened. I don't know if people are just not shy anymore and are just like, "Hey, guess what? I have powers too, guys."
Yeah,
But
I mean, obviously there has to be like a lot of them to start like a whole superhuman law division.
oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, how many are there? We have to think. This is taking place in New York, right? We're in New York.
Wait. Mm,
Did they explicitly say
no, this is LA, I think, actually.
L.A.? Yeah, you're right. It's L.A. Um, I don't know. Just the fact that Titania is a super influencer that is somehow on trial for something. Did
I
they
think it
did
was
they mention
a
what she was on
speeding
trial for?
ticket, so like nothing
A
major,
sp-
except she like broke a courtroom,
I was
so
gonna
now
say
it's gonna be
what.
something major.
Right. But I was going to mention something. This character introduction at the beginning of the series kind of reminds me. I see a parallel between this and this is going to sound strange, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Paul Giannetti's character. We see him in the beginning as this kind of low life super villain, stealing all those. I don't remember what exactly he was stealing in that truck. He like
Um,
robbed that armed truck.
it was like
It doesn't
plutonium or
matter.
something.
Yeah, it's not important. But later at the end of the movie, we see him coming back as this like super evolved like villain, where he's kind of like taken his time after meeting the superhero for the first time and has kind of played it back in his head and come back with a different strategy. So I think that we'll see Titania again, but I don't know that we'll see her in the light of being a superhero.
Yes, and actually, that's a good point. This series has yet really to establish a main villain. Do you think it's possible that Titania could be this series' main villain?
I have a theory. I'm going to spitball here for a second, so just stay with me.
Okay.
I think Holloway could be the villain.
Oh, okay.
Hear me out. He started the superhuman division of law to quote unquote help or protect the superhumans. And his first mission that he gives to Jen is to break or is to get one of the most notorious supervillains alive out of maximum security prison. For what reason?
That's a good point. However, I will say, wait, okay, did they establish that Abomination paid money to GLK&H, the law firm? Because like it's also possible like cuz it's called the Superhuman Law Division, not necessarily like the Superhero Law Division. So if
Yeah.
Abomination like paid money for a lawyer from this new Superhuman Law Division, that doesn't necessarily mean that like um Holloway is like bad for trying to like get this guy out of prison.
That's a good
However,
point.
I do think you could be onto something because Holloway does seem a little bit sketchy.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I think it's just cuz like that's how his character is, but
that could be it.
I think you could be right.
Just because nobody's really stepped up to take the role of villain yet, I think that he
Mhm.
could be. Also, I just want to mention that there's Abomination couldn't even pay for his own house, so I think that his soulmates probably, if anything,
Oh,
paid for the lawyer.
yes, that's true. Actually, yeah, and if his soulmates didn't pay for the lawyer, then who did? Like, there could
There
be
would be no
someone who.
motivation.
The,
No, you know what? He said he was going to take the case pro bono because it was such good publicity.
oh, yes, you're right. I forgot about that. Okay, so
Yeah,
something is going on there. I mean,
right.
maybe like Abomination really like has changed a lot, but like we don't know for sure if we can trust him.
Exactly.
There, there is the possibility, actually a very strong possibility, that something is going on there.
Yeah, we don't know if Holloway's the villain, but he's definitely not. We're not seeing the whole picture. We haven't seen the whole picture yet. So I think we just need to wait on that. I think something's definitely going to happen as the series goes on with Holloway. It could be some dumb side plot that doesn't really mean much to us, that is kind of like a personal thing that he's going through. I could totally see that happening. But I will say something about his character that I love. It's just the small stuff. When Jen walked in for the first time to like get her assignment, he was talking to one of his assistants and he goes, "Tell Walters he's going to Minnesota." He goes, "Okay, just tell him that. He's not going to he hates the cold. Just tell him he's going to go there. He's not going to. Just tell him he's going to. It'll make him
I
mad."
do I do remember that part. That
I
yeah,
laughed out loud.
that's that's actually like part of the charm of this series. Like it obviously the MCU is known for being like very humorous as far as like superhero movies go. But for the most part. and sometimes maybe to a fault. But this show has a very different type of humor than what we're used to seeing in the MCU. And even though it's still humorous, I find it very refreshing to have stuff like that.
Absolutely, it's the small stuff they're not trying. They overshot the humor on Thor: Love and Thunder, and now they're reeling it
Yeah.
back in, and it's becoming more real, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the approach of having it as like a half hour legal comedy really helps it too.
Oh yeah. This fact that there's more than one plot, and that's what I like about the show a lot. This is actually the one of the reasons that I'm in love with this show is because it's less about her trying to manage as a superhero. It's more about her trying to avoid being a superhero, her trying
Yes.
to live as a real person. Now,
Hmm.
we watched Hulk kind of struggle with that a little bit. We watched Captain America like fail to fit into society. Thor didn't even try. Iron Man was kind of already a big celebrity before he became Iron Man. But we haven't seen somebody with superhuman capabilities avoid, not responsibility, as Hulk put it, but avoid the opportunity to become a superhero
Yeah.
and live as a regular person.
Yeah,
So,
and ultimately, like, I feel like each episode of this series is sort of like its own self-contained plot, but then, like, I think the overarching thing in this show is going to be Jen having to come to terms with the fact that she has to be a superhero. Like, maybe not has to, but, like, it's her calling. And not necessarily that she can only be a superhero, but she can be a lawyer and a superhero. And I think like whether it's at GLK&H or if she goes and starts her own firm or I don't know, Daredevil's going to be in the show, maybe she starts a firm with him. I think it's going to be about her coming to terms with being a lawyer and a superhero and, you know, practicing superhuman law and embracing that.
yeah, I completely agree. I just want to touch back on the fourth wall thing really quickly. Um, I when she was driving the car and she let her hand go from the steering wheel, she kind of admitted that it was like, oh, just so you know, this isn't like a cameo type of TV show. So she admitted that she was in a TV show, which is a little weird. Um,
Yes.
but she did. She was like, oh yeah, we had Wong. I mean Bruce, and then there was who was the third one?
Abomination. Yeah.
Abomination. Yeah. So she was like, so it's well, maybe it is gonna be one of those shows. So we're probably gonna see Matt Murdock soon. I don't know who Wong. There's just we're gonna see a lot more people, I think, than we expected to in this show, which is always good. It's
Yeah.
always good.
Yeah, and I love it because like it firmly grounds the show in the MCU, but like with a different spin on it. Um, and I think I like how it shows us like this different side, like the lawyer aspect of it, because it feels like it's as if all of these characters had to deal with the legal implications of their actions. So like even besides like introducing Jen into this universe and having like her character development, I think like this show does a lot for the MCU by adding this legal side to it.
Yeah. Just this is like a side note type of thing. Something Wong said about trying to get people to erase their memories. He's like, oh, and that was a mess the first time. We can't do that again. So does he remember erasing Spider-Man
Um
from?
so my understanding of how the spell works is because Doctor Strange mentioned in Multiverse of Madness that they had a recent issue with Spider-Man. So my understanding is that like they remember like everything that happened with that. They just don't remember who Peter Parker is. So they remember dealing with all of that with Spider-Man, but they don't
Right.
know who Spider-Man is and they don't know who Peter Parker is because Peter Parker doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, so that's kind of weird then for MJ and Ned, if that's how they remember it. They're like, oh, MJ was like, yeah, I was dating Spider-Man. Who's Spider-Man? I don't know. And Ned's like,
Yeah,
yeah, Spider-Man was my best friend. Who's your best friend? I can't remember. and they were like completely normal.
Yeah, I don't know if we're meant to fully think about the implications of that. Like,
Yeah,
and I
probably
don't know
not.
if like the producers fully thought of that. They probably just
Right.
don't want us to think about it too much.
That's probably true. I just think it was something that I needed clarification on, just because I didn't fully understand it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, one thing that I want to talk about, and we briefly touched upon it at the beginning, with that spaceship, but in the second episode, we see that Hulk is now on that spaceship, or one very similar to it, maybe, and he is headed somewhere. We don't know where. I assume it's back to Sakaar because he said it was a Sakaarian craft, but why?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be. I don't think this is going to be a side plot that's explored in the show. I think we've seen enough of. I think Bruce is probably done for She-Hulk.
Yes, I think
Because
you're
if he
probably
went to
right.
Sakaar, that's like too big of a plot for this show to handle right now. They've got
Yeah.
a lot going on, and a lot not going on. Again, we don't have a villain yet. We don't really know where the show's headed. But I think that it's going to be something that's probably explored in another movie. I don't know what movie.
You know, okay, this this may be a stretch, but I think we might get another Hulk movie because I know like in the past Marvel Studios has not wanted to make solo Hulk films because it's a pain that Universal has to be the one to release it to theaters. But I don't know. I think it's possible behind the scenes they worked something out with Universal because it seems like this has to be setting up a solo Hulk film, right? Like, I
Right.
don't know what else it could be.
And here's the thing, Marvel wouldn't have posted about it because they're not going to be the ones producing it.
Yeah.
So it could be a movie that's like kind of, I don't know, that not a secret movie, but a movie that hasn't been released and is still on its way,
Yeah,
you
like, I
know?
mean, Universal could announce something in the coming months. Or actually, I don't know. It's not the same thing that they have with Sony. It's a little different, so I don't know how that all works. But Universal or Marvel might announce something in the coming months. There were a lot of empty spaces in Phase 6 that don't have movies announced for them yet. So, you never
Yeah.
know.
And just so we're clear, Sakaar is where he went during Ragnarok, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that some people don't know the technical terms for the planet. They don't know the actual name. I am going to be honest, I was struggling to remember, but I am glad that I was on the right track. So Sakaar is where he was the champion, the grand champion in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Cool.
My guess is the reason the ship came is because like the Grandmaster wanted his champion back. But then the odd thing is when he's actually on the ship, it looks like he's on there willingly. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. It could be that there's like another problem that he has to solve or something's gone wrong and I don't know, that's the next plot for his movie or I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot to speculate about, and we'll get into that another time. Hopefully, when somebody releases that there's going to be another Hulk project, because how many does he have left on his contract? Two?
I have
Two
no
more?
idea. I
Yeah.
I'd assume it can't be very many because I mean, he was an original Avenger. They've got to be thinking about retiring his character fairly soon. I think
Oh,
it would be nice to
yeah.
get like at least one more thing with like raw rageful Hulk though before he goes away.
Yeah, I think that they have to have a another type of. There are definitely online. There are definitely a lot of. There's a lot of speculation as to where we'll see him next. Um, they're thinking about putting him in. I mean, every upcoming movie. I think they're talking about putting him in because he has like 7 projects left.
Oh,
There's a
really?
comic book. There's a comic book event called World War Hulk. That was a mini series. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot of different ways that they can keep Bruce Banner in the MCU without giving him a movie. So we might not see the movie, but it would definitely be interesting to give him, more of a solo
Yeah.
adventure.
I mean, I think no matter what, he'll play a role in the next two Avengers movies that have been announced for, what was it, 2026?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I agree, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Sorry, was there something else you wanted to add?
yeah, we have to answer a burning question really quickly. In the first episode,
I was just about to.
Jen starts talking. Jen starts talking about one of our favorite heroes, Mr. Steve Rogers, Captain
Yep.
America, and how Mr. Rogers allegedly was a virgin. And Bruce kind of clears that up and says in 1943 he dun, 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 became not a virgin. And the question is, who was this person?
Okay. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of this, but I saw this amazing theory. I've seen it like in multiple places, like all over the internet. So I don't know. You may have seen it too, but and I'm actually in my mind this is canon until they disprove it. But I think that Captain America is Star-Lord's grandmother or Star-Lord's grandfather because Bruce Banner says that Captain America lost his virginity during the USO tour. And in the first Avenger, during the USO tour, apparently there's a woman who comes up to him and asks for a picture or an autograph or something, but that woman is the same actress who played Peter Quill's mom in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So that actress could be Peter Quill's grandma, which means that if Steve Rogers lost his virginity to her, then he would be Star-Lord's grandfather.
Oh my god. That'd be awesome.
Yes,
That
it
would make my day. If in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, like a post-credit scene, something like that, like popped up,
Right?
that would make my day. That'd be hilarious.
I doubt.
Oh
I mean,
my
I really
God.
doubt they'll ever confirm that, like in a movie. Maybe Kevin Feige will say something, but that's gotta be canon. I mean, that's way too
Damn.
good to not be. And also, like, I mean,
Yeah, that's incredible.
Chris Pratt and Chris Evans don't look too dissimilar.
I was gonna say they're both like the same kind of build,
Yeah,
so it's possible. That'd be really weird.
it would be, but, and I mean, maybe that like would be too connected, but
Yeah,
I just think it's like
but that's just funny.
it's too good to not be true.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
Back to the show though.
yeah.
Another question that we have to answer: is the CGI bad? Now, this is a hotly debated topic. There's a lot of controversy. Do you want to give us your opinion first, Charles?
Yeah, so I feel like at times it is bad. Like, just to put it plainly, like, it's okay, maybe not bad, but it's not the greatest. And I just think, like, not okay, the CGI overall is not bad, but like, She-Hulk's CGI specifically, I feel like is bad at times. Because when you look at, Hulk, or like, Smart Hulk, he has like very well textured skin. Like it's very realistic looking even for a giant green monster. But like for She-Hulk, her skin seems oddly smooth. And also like not that this is necessarily a CGI issue. You brought it up earlier. She doesn't feel like big and muscular enough. And that I don't think that was an issue that like the CGI artists caused because it was probably by instruction from Marvel Studios, but I think that does make it contributes to making it look off. So that's my 2 cents on it. What about you?
That could be, yeah, that could be it. It just seems like it's all like I don't know how to describe it, but when her eyes move as She-Hulk, it just looks fake. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
looks like
fair.
a cartoon. And I don't know what it is. It could be the fact that her whole body is the same color, despite shadows and everything. Like if they added
Hmm.
shadows and stuff, I feel like there's a way to make it look more realistic. But for some reason, she's always standing in plain light, where the whole color, like there's no variation at all, and it's just
Yeah.
like you said, there's no definition.
Hmm.
Even if she's not as muscular as Hulk is, there should be something,
Yeah,
right?
there's just not as much contrast on her skin, I think is what it
Right.
comes down to. Like I don't know
And
if
the
it was
coloring seems
laziness
off
or
too.
yeah.
She
Yeah,
seems
it
like a different
does.
color than
She's
Bruce.
she's more green, I think. Like I feel like Bruce, you
Yeah.
see like some brown on his skin. Like it just seems much more gritty and real. Um
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and she really doesn't look like there's some definition in this shot, but it's ridiculous how real he looks compared to her, and it could be because they've been perfecting Mark Ruffalo's version of Smart Hulk
yeah,
for
well, I mean, they
years.
already had like the CGI model they used in Endgame, so I'm
Right.
sure they just like took that and used it, but they had to make a completely new thing for
But
She-Hulk.
like here's the biggest thing. There's no wrinkles anywhere. Her skin doesn't wrinkle when she moves.
Yeah, I
I'm looking at her like meditating, and her wrist doesn't, it's just smooth. She has no
yeah.
wrinkles on her like face like Bruce does. I don't He just looks so dang real, and her face for some reason just does not look, I don't know, her skin, her complexion, it's just she's very, I don't know what it is. She looks like in one of these scenes, it just looks like her just painted green, and like you can tell that Mark Ruffalo's CGI'd, but because like there's no way that somebody could look like that. But she just looks like a regular person, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah. I I mean, there are some shots where like it does look a lot better, but I think it just comes down to how the scene is lit, and like in some shots they may have had more time to work on it than others. I don't know.
Yeah, it's, and then even the CGI on Abomination, it's not great, but it's better than her. It's better than hers right now.
Yeah, and I think that's because they added more texture to Abomination.
Yeah, definitely. He looks greasy right now. Ugh, he looks weird.
But yeah, I mean, if they make a season two for the show, which I mean, I could see them doing it's definitely a format that I think would lend itself well to a second season. I think updating and fixing Jen's Hulk form CGI would be a great thing to do.
It would absolutely make this show, I don't know, people would just, I feel like people would not respect it more, but appreciate the form of Hulk. I don't know. Right now it's throwing me off a little bit. I'm getting through it, but I know some people refuse to watch the show because of the CGI.
Yeah,
So I
well,
think that's
I think people who do that, I think they're just looking for an excuse not to watch it in the first place, to
that
be
actually could be
honest.
true.
But I mean, if they updated the CGI at least, then like that'd be one less excuse for people to have to hate on the show for no reason.
Exactly.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, the
Um
CGI does not ruin the show by any
no,
means.
no. No, because you can, I'm still enjoying it and her journey, cuz she turns back to human form. That's the thing. If she was She-Hulk the entire time, it'd be a different story.
Oh yeah, and okay, when Holloway told her that she was gonna have to be in She-Hulk form all the time at work, that had me worried that like the show was just gonna she was gonna be in CGI form almost the entire time. But thank God when she went to like the DODC prison, they told her she had to be in human form, and then when she hangs out with friends, she's in human form. So
Yeah.
I am relieved that she's not gonna be in Hulk form the entire time.
It's a good thing. Um so I guess the one of the last things I want to talk about is this team that Holloway's putting together. We've got Dennis, who I don't think is on the team. Dennis is still part of the DA.
Yeah.
Bukowski. We have Nikki Ramos, who's the paralegal. Um, Jen, Pug, who's the guy who was defending Bukowski in the third episode. And then we were briefly introduced to Amelia, who was set to work on the case with Bukowski. And then after Bukowski made an inappropriate comment, she was like, "All right, good, I'm out of here." She is supposed to, in one of the post, or not the post credit, but one of the credit scenes. There's an illustration of her, Amelia, Jen, Nikki, Pug, and Holloway all sitting around together, which is something that I noticed because we haven't really seen a lot of Amelia yet. So I'm excited to see what her character has to offer. I think that she's hiding something. Not hiding something, but I think that they're waiting to reveal something about her. Like, why are all these people working in the superhuman division?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There is a reason why Holloway brought them all together, I'm sure. And I'm guessing that'll probably be a late season reveal. 'Cause it seems like these episodes are mostly like going to just be like focusing on the lawyer stuff, and then like maybe later on um it'll get more into like the the drama that's like more grounded in the superhero world. But I don't know. It is sort of a mystery. But I'm excited to find out why they're all
Yeah,
here
it's
together.
definitely gonna be. It's definitely gonna be weird. I bet you that they all have some sort of superpower or superhuman
Oh,
ability,
really?
um, or that they're probably just I don't know. Maybe the fact that they have experience with it. It could be. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good place to end this episode of the Charles Squared podcast. We
Absolutely.
will be covering the remainder of the She-Hulk series. Um, I don't know. I don't know when we'll have another episode out, but we will cover this series because we're both very excited to find out what comes next.
Yes, we are. All right. Well, thank you for listening. If you gotten this far, just remember we are probably going to be back three episodes from now. I think it'd be a good idea to
Yeah.
go every 3 episodes. We get 3 full podcasts out of this show. We've got a lot coming up. We've got Andor, September
Oh
21st.
yeah.
Super
Three
excited. They've
episodes
got
on
a
one
three
day.
episode premiere. It's gonna be great. We've got a couple more projects coming up. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Right, we've got Wakanda Forever, November
Oh yeah.
11th. Can't forget.
Oh,
I think I'm gonna go. Where are you?
sorry. In theaters this weekend is the more fun stuff version of
Woo!
Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if we'll be covering that here on the podcast, but go
I was
see
just gonna
that.
ask. I am definitely gonna go check that out this weekend. Charles, if you have an opportunity to check that out, just let me know, and we will absolutely cover that 15 or it's like 11 minutes of new footage, which is
Yeah.
gonna be exciting. So we're gonna see what was cut, what was taken out, and what the directors didn't think was good enough for us to see. Even though I can't imagine them ruining that movie. But it's gonna be a ride. We've definitely got a lot more projects to look forward to. Phase 4 coming to a close. Phase 4 is already over, right?
Phase 4 ends with Wakanda Forever in November.
Okay, so Phase 4 is coming to a close before 2022 ends. And we've got so much more to explore in the next 3 years.
Oh yeah.
So we've got a lot ahead of us. We got to keep the material fresh, and we will see you guys very shortly.